Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Dreams podcast with Charlie and Justin. We're on episode number 131, and truthfully, neither of us even know what day it is at this point.
Yes,
Chaotic
absolutely.
week for both of us, especially you with your work schedule, man. It's been hectic to say the least from what it seems, and that's not even you that's going through it.
Yeah, and I got to preface that with there's self-inflicted wounds, to be honest. I make my own schedule for the most part. So I scheduled some meetings that were like a safety meeting on Wednesday, for example, that in the evening, and then one popped up that they asked that we could schedule. And I was like, you know what? I'm already going to be down there. So let's just do it in the morning for another division. So I had an early morning safety meeting that day and a late evening safety meeting, and it's 2.5 hours from home, 2 hours from home.
Yeah.
So it made for a long day, but it's all good. Like I said, it's self-inflicted. It was, that's one of the downfalls to me is like being like really focused on time management for the most part. Sometimes I fail because I try to manage it too good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat when it comes to like we've talked about it ad nauseum at this point for me, just not being able to handle spontaneity. And when you try to be hypersensitive to your schedule and to your plans and things go awry, it kind of messes you up, which is awful for both of us.
Right. And the biggest downfall, honestly, for the next, for me, the next 2 weeks is not the lack of sleep. I deal with that well, I think. It's the volume of stuff that I have scheduled for myself in the morning that has kept me out of the gym.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I couldn't figure out a way to do it to where I could schedule it and still do the gym and do all the things I need to get done for work, which, you got to do the things you got to do for work because that's your job. So
I think that naturally this kind of like leads us to like an organic talking point that actually something that I'd like to talk to you about in general anyway. So it's just fitting that it happens to be on the podcast. But when I think about stuff like this, one of the things that I have been kind of ruminating on as of late is maybe some bad habits that I have, because again, the podcast is always center focused, is like it's myopically focused on self-improvement and self-actualization and fulfillment of dreams and aspirations. So there's like that constant, self-improvement aspect. One of the things that I've been thinking of lately is what are the downfalls or the characteristics that I'm lacking that potentially take away from my time management. So one of the things that I looked at, and this was actually not really directed at me, but directed in the general sense, because I was talking to a very good friend of mine. We had breakfast. Or I don't know, that's probably a misnomer. I shouldn't say we had breakfast. We didn't really eat, but we went and met at a breakfast place and talked for a while about business and life and whatnot. This gentleman is the CFO of a company and then owns several other companies, has owned multiple more companies previously. And so he's extremely successful and wealthy, and someone that I look up to both because of his like professional standing and then also because he's just a solid dude. But he and I were talking and I was picking his brain about some things. And naturally, whenever you're talking about success, the concept of time management gets brought up. And he was talking about the biggest killers of time management. And before I tell you what he said, what would you say in your estimation? And this could be generalized to everybody, or this could be specific to you. What do you think are the biggest killers of your time? Like, what is eating away your time that you could eliminate that could make your time management so much better?
Ooh. So for me personally, right, I know what mine is, and it's my personality. So especially like in my profession, everything I do is based off of me being able to convey a message to people. So my personality, as you know, and as a lot of our listeners know now, is I'm a talker. I am long-winded and I will not shut up until you tell me to. So I can, for example, pull into a location to have a 30-minute conversation that I have bullet points and I have the talking points already in my head. I know what I need to say. But if one person in that group of people interacts, I'll go off on a tangent and want to understand more and more and more, and want them to understand that I actually care is a lot of the problem, right?
Yeah.
So I kill my own time management because I'll plan my day out, I'll plan a 12-hour window out down to the minute. And as you know, we talked about this before, where you actually brought it up to where you almost have to tell people, all right, this is not worth my time. Not that you're not worth my time, but this is not worth my time, and I have to walk away because we do that.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
I can't do that
as well, man. It's exact same.
Yeah. So, and honestly, it's the one thing that I don't think I want to change to an extreme, right? Because it is the reason I am who I am. You know what I mean? I'm relatable, and I feel like I'm the person that anybody can talk to. So if I change that, then that is a quality that goes away some, and I'm not willing to lose that quality as well.
Yeah, I agree that there's definitely some benefits. I mean, like with it's live by the sword, die by the sword. Everything is like double-edged essentially, because I think that all of our personality traits can be the best thing for us, but then the worst thing for us, depending on the situation. So
Right.
when I thought about this in myself, like when I kind of like self-analyze and look internally and retrospectively at how I've been, the biggest thing that I think of, or there's two things. The minor one, which is still pretty big issue, is my phone, because I need my phone for everything. So I'm communicating daily through my app with all the people that I have my online training for. I do email exchange for virtually everything, in terms of like communicating with the school and with parents and all that stuff. When I work with over 200 student athletes and clients at the gym, like when you think about that number, over 200, that's a ton. So that's constant scheduling with parents, and it almost I could use like 3 full-time secretaries and still have lots of extra work to do. And then I use social media as a tool to kind of network and to convey messages to people and to market, and then even for informational purposes, for like trainings and different like group classes and schedulings and times and stuff. I have my calendar app where people can sign up for consultations and video calls with me. So I'm on my phone all the time. Now, everything I just mentioned is professional or business related or growth mindset. Everything that I mentioned is something that's going to make me better at my job or my career or whatever. But within that scope of me being on my phone all the time, there are times where I like to go to Instagram and I'll scroll through things, or I'll go to ESPN and check the score of some games, or I'll play 1 level or 2 levels or 3 levels of Royal Match, which is it's comparable to like Candy Crush. And it had gotten to the point in the past where I've actually taken certain apps off my phone, like Candy Crush. Like, okay, I cannot play this, because one of my things is I don't think I'm I have like an addictive personality per se, but I have a personality where I want to be good at things if I do them. So like even something as simple as Candy Crush, and this seems like a joke, but like once it was downloaded, I had to try to like be the best in the world. I mean, not literally, but like I had to try to like be able to get to the highest level I could so I could brag to everybody about what level I was at. So my phone, ultimately, point stands, my phone was extremely, extremely consuming for me, even in like intervals that I didn't even know it was that consuming. Like if you ask me if I have a phone problem, I'd say no, but then I go back and like think about all the things I used it for that day, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I probably do. So that was the first one, which was minor. The second one for me, though, honestly, was exactly like you said, the talking. I think part of it is me being sociable like yourself. Mine's a little bit different in the sense that I'm getting a lot of questions and answers throughout the day. Like I feel like I'm a walking and talking like frequently asked questions manual, where I get like the same questions in the gym setting, day to day. It's very, very constant, to the point where I'm actually this summer, one of my projects is going to be to publish some ebooks in terms of some of like the frequently asked questions I get, so people can have like a resource to go to that's really quick and easy for them. And within that question and answer scope, again, one of the problems I have is that I'm constantly like trying to be as thorough and explain things as best I can. Now, when I was talking to my friend at breakfast the other day, that was one of the things that he mentioned that needs to stop is me being so thorough with my time, because he said the biggest killer of productivity is talking. And me, someone asked me a simple question that I could give a simple answer to, but I don't, because I want to help them and be as thorough as I can. So if it's even something simple as like a certain exercise, it's like, here, well, let me show you the exercise. Let me explain the why. Let me explain to you the biomechanics and all this stuff. Whereas, he suggested make time for that. Say, hey, if you'd like to hire me for a half hour, we could do like a quick consult about this. I could go over your nutrition if you have a diet question, and we can talk about it. Because not only would that be like financially incentivizing for me to do that because I could make money off of it, but then I would also be using my time a little bit wiser in a time when I could use it, versus me trying to multitask like, hey, I got to train this client and then I got another one coming in. I'm a little bit behind schedule, so I really got to go, but you asked me this question, so on and so forth. So I think that it's sufficient to say that for all of us, or well, not all, but most of us, talking is the biggest killer of staying like well versed in time management, I think. So I'm glad that we both agree.
Right. Yeah, and it's something, and that's honestly been something that I've known for a long time about myself, and I've just come to terms with, although I do need to learn how to utilize my time a little better and not get away from that quality of that's within myself, right? But
Yep.
I need to learn more, which is fine. Like that means I need to grow more, which is ultimately the goal. So it's just a matter of doing so.
When you talk about like, because that's your personality, like you alluded to, and that's who you are and what you're about and stuff. Like I actually, when I first started this, because this is several months ago, and we've had this conversation over the course of the podcast several months ago, where we were talking, a couple of times about like one of the ways to strengthen better time management on my end was to cut down communication time, nonsense communication time. Like, hey, what's going on? Just messing around and socializing, I guess would be a good way to put it, which I hate to like make it sound like I have no time for socializing. Excuse me. I don't know if you guys can tell I have the hiccups now, but so when I first started doing this, like making a conscientious effort to be like, all right, I got to end conversations quicker because I can find myself getting too wrapped up in conversations. Well, when I started doing that, I did it like very progressively and subtly, or at least I thought I was being subtle. But even then, like I had several people that would message me after a brief exchange and say, hey, are you mad at me? Or, hey, is everything okay? Because I was so much more to the point and I don't want to say abrupt, but like a little bit shorter and more concise with my responses and stuff with people. And they interpreted that as me not being myself and something's wrong, or I'm mad at them, or they did something to me that upset me or whatever. And I thought that's interesting, the dynamic there about how like just this tiny little adjustment, or a seemingly tiny adjustment that I thought I made, is trying to cut down some communication time. People picked up on it like instantly.
That's a good thing though. And that's a whole nother talking point that I don't know we have time for. But when you talk about like relationship building and like having a circle of people that you're around all the time, if you have people that pick up on a very small cue like that, like you changed something and they picked up on it and they actually asked you, that means that your circle is the right circle. Like you have the right people around you because they're concerned, even if it comes off as they're concerned that you're mad at them, they're still concerned at your feelings. And that means that they care about your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a talking point that I'm pretty used to at this point for this month, because it's one of the talking points that one of our EHS focuses for the month is mental health awareness. So, it's, on the work end of my life, that's something I've been talking about day in and day out. So, it's something that when you said that, I was like, that means that you have the people around you that are doing the right things. Like you're doing the right things because you're surrounding yourself by the people that actually care about you.
Yep, absolutely. No doubt about that. But yeah, I mean, I think that, like I said, it is interesting how a little bit of a change on my end kind of elicited a response from everybody, or almost everybody, about something being awry or something being off, which, tells you that at least I think that my attempt had to have been working then too. Because if people are noticing that I'm not spending as much time with them, well, then I'm not spending as much time with them, which for me is a good thing. Like I always think about this kind of stuff, like even in my own head about how I can improve and how I get better. And I'm not necessarily making it sound like I'm the world's most motivated person, but I am like very like introflective. Like I always think in my brain about my behaviors and my actions and my thoughts and stuff like that. One of the things that I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast before, but I think it is pretty funny. One of my buddies in college, like whenever they were talking, he would always like, if there was ever a point where there wasn't like productive conversation, he would always say, all right, well, I'm not getting any smarter from this conversation. And then he'd just hang up the phone abruptly. And it was funny because it was kind of a joke. And then I kind of like picked up on this thing. I know that Huck Finn Barbell does it as well. I'm not sure exactly what his verbiage is or what his words are, but like with me, where it kind of like towards the end of a conversation, like I will end it very, very distinctly by just saying, okay, bye, and then walk away. And it's hilarious because everybody like thinks it's funny, like, oh, there goes Charlie again saying, okay, bye, and then running away or scurrying away from the conversation. But like I do that on the phone with my close friends, and it gets me out of conversation very quickly, no matter what the circumstance, just because that's the thing I've always done.
Right.
So you and I could be in the middle of this conversation, just like if this was a phone call and not actually being recorded, and I could say, okay, bye, and then just hit end, and then I'm done. And there it is. So
Yep.
that's like, I think that may be a useful strategy for people too, is kind of find, and it doesn't have to, it could be like humor driven, but find an out. Not that we're giving people excuses to like try to get out of conversation and like lie, like, oh, I gotta, my out is my family. Oh, I gotta go. But like, at times like have like an available out to be able to get out of conversation if that's the biggest killer of your time. Because again, I know I said everybody, I was speaking hyperbolically though, because not literally everybody, that's their problem. Some people have other vices that are time consuming, like television or whatever. But I think you and I have just identified what ours are. And I'm sure there's others that I present in that like I'm not really thinking of right now. And I'm trying to like rack my brain just as we're having this open forum and this conversation, thinking about things that I do that are taking away from my productivity aside from talking in my phone. But I'm sure I have several.
Yeah, I mean, I know I have others, but the one that stands out the most to me is talking. I'm a motor mouth, when I was growing up, I mean, I've always been this way. Growing up, my mom called me a social butterfly. I
Mhm.
just would talk to anybody and jabber their ear off until they basically said, okay, bye.
Yep. And
So
I think that I like that you and I have this relationship, as do others, on like in our inner circle, like our lifting group, where we can kind of dismiss ourselves pretty quickly without like, hey, is he okay? Like, is there something wrong? Like he just got up and left really, really quickly and was really short or whatever. Like I know I've picked up on it too, even though it hasn't been like really discussed openly amongst us, but like chat, like as soon as we're
yeah.
done with the workout, he's off. Like he's running the
Yep.
shower and going. And one of the stories too, and I have told this before, but I think that it's something that is worth re-mentioning for those who didn't hear it. It was really cool. I was listening to a podcast called Mind Pump, which if you guys are unfamiliar with Mind Pump, I would definitely give it a listen if you're interested in health, nutrition, fitness, performance, cognitive performance, everything. And they were interviewing Brent Contreras, who's known as the glute guy, where he's marketed like this whole paradigm of I get people's butts bigger, both male and female. He's known as the glute doctor or the glute guy or something like that. So I was listening to this interview where they're interviewing Brent, and he said something about how he used to run everywhere because he was talking about this situation that he was in. He was like a teacher. I think he was a high school teacher, but he was also studying for his like master's degree in sports and exercise science or something like that, where essentially he was teaching school and he was in school at the same time. And he had so many things going on. And he said that he used to run everywhere. Like he would run to the bathroom, run back from the bathroom. Like he was always moving, like literally physically moving super fast. That people would ask him about it, like, hey, what the heck? Why do you run everywhere? And he said, because I have so much to do and this helps keep me productive because I'm doing everything at a expedited fashion or at an expedited rate that's helping me accomplish more. And I thought it was so funny because like that's something so simple, but like, and I don't want people to take this out of context and make it sound like I'm suggesting that they just sprint everywhere. But like sometimes even fast movement is a way to get, and actually for me, I've noticed that kills two birds with one stone. When I'm done training at the gym for the night, obviously there's a lot of people, like one person said to me today, just ingested, like, hey dude, you have like a fan club here. Because I was trying to leave, and part of it was self-inflicted too. Like I was starting conversations and communicating with people and stuff. But one of the things I notice is as I'm done with trainings for the evening, it really, really helps if I get my stuff and make my way through the gym quickly. Like if I look like I'm in a hurry, it makes me a little bit less approachable. And I think people avoid me for that reason. Like head down, hood up, bags in hand, lunch bag, gym bag, out the door I go. I'm moving. I'm scooting out the door. So I think that's maybe another strategy that people could use in different contexts, is maybe just move faster on the things that you're doing, honestly.
And it's, double the profit because you're getting your cardio in too.
Yeah, there you go. See, there's always benefits to everything. So, hey, man, I'm sure there's a multitude of other things. And tell you what, let's go to a quick commercial break. And then maybe over the course of the break, you and I can quickly brainstorm of some more ideas on ways that we can be more productive to help give our listeners some tips and feedback. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right. So let's go to a quick commercial break and we'll talk more about killers of productivity when we come back. As listeners of the Chasing Dreams podcast, we know that you demand the highest quality at all times. If you're interested in quality, look no further than Beast Mode Baking. Beast Mode Baking aims to bring the highest quality, creative, and of course delicious baked goods to your home with nationwide shipping. All orders need to be pre-ordered to ensure they're packed fresh and shipped out to you as soon as possible. Beast Mode Baking offers a flat rate of $15 for shipping due to the size and weight of the cookies and doughs. So if you're interested in Beast Mode Baking, please contact CEO Shannon Knorr. That's at SKNORR13 on Instagram, and order your delicious baked goods today, because every time you support them, you're supporting the podcast as well. And we are back from our commercial break. All right, Justin, prior to the break, you and I kind of started the conversation that I'm sure our listeners hopefully enjoyed, because I'm sure that they were thinking some thoughts as well in terms of productivity killers, things that kill our time management and things that put us behind on a schedule. And it's especially an important topic for you and I, because we always talk about how we're so schedule oriented and so regulated that if you put one thing behind and you have 10 things for the day, then the other 9 are now falling behind. It's like a domino effect. So one of the things we mentioned earlier as being a big killer for most people, and I thought maybe we could try to brainstorm some strategies for listeners and in conjunction with listeners, because I'm going to ask for feedback after this episode of ways that we can get away from some of the main culprits. So we mentioned phone. You and I mentioned casual conversation and socializing. Another big one, I think, is definitely television. We mentioned it very, very briefly in the context of other people having an issue with it, even though I personally don't. But TV is a huge killer for a lot of people. Huge.
Especially, and this is, it does kill some of my time. Because my wife really likes to watch certain shows, and like we get to spend our time together really in the evening. Mm-hmm. So I spend time with her in front of the TV usually. So, but it seems like the evenings, it kills people's evening. Like when you're winding down for the day, instead of getting a productive work in or some kind of thing done that could be productive, we sit in front of the television. We don't want to get up.
Now, let me ask you this, because this is something that immediately sparks in my head, is when you are talking about people that their time is being monopolized by the television predominantly at night. Is that because they're home at night? Or do you think that obviously they're home at night, so that's probably where they have the most potential to be exposed to the television. But I think that you think a lot of it is just because of lack of energy. So when people are tired from working an entire day, they come home and they immediately want to rest. Therefore, they turn on the television.
Yeah, I think that could be part of it. And another part of that could be a poor diet. Not so much just like food choices, but something as simple as hydration could make you like overly fatigued from your job, which this is just a personal opinion. You can tell me I'm crazy or not, but once you're established at like a certain profession and you've done it for a period of time, I feel like your body gets used to it. It's muscle memory, right? So once in a while, yes, you might have a hard day, but for the overall, are you really fatigued from work? Or are you fatigued from contributing factors?
Absolutely. So again, and it's funny you say that, because that's where I was going to lead that conversation, was about how the fatigue from work for most people, because it depends if you have a very like labor intensive or a manual labor laden job, then you might not be able to control it too much. But you can help mitigate the amount of fatigue that you accumulate at your job when you come home. If you come home at 4 in the afternoon, 4 in the evening, that you're not overly exhausted and you can still be productive and not need to crash in front of the television. And the other conversation that I would have with someone, honestly, is if you are to the point where you are that exhausted and you get home, TV is just making that worse.
Yeah, go to bed.
On the television and being exposed to all the blue light, that's not making anything better. In fact, that's hindering your body's ability to produce melatonin and to signal the time for sleep and it's time for rest. So you're kind of sending your body's mixed signals. It's very stressed and fatigued because of strain at work, be it mental, physical, spiritual, whatever, emotional. And then you're trying to watch TV. So I think that if you're tired where you feel like the need to kind of sit on the couch and vegetate in front of the television, you're going to be better served of literally just going to bed.
Right. And I often think about like people, I don't even know how many years ago it would have been. Let's just say 100 years ago, when we didn't like, cause that cuts TV out completely. Right.
Yep.
So 100 years ago, were people that fatigued after like at the end of their day? I mean, because you ate 3 square meals a day. You know, there wasn't a lot of overly processed foods and stuff for you to consume. So even if you weren't eating a super hyperly controlled diet, you were eating more organic, more natural foods. And you weren't sitting in front of a TV screen or having a cell phone blue light in your face. Or, I mean, heck, even I'm in studio, whatever you want to call it, CDB at this point, with the LCD screens inside your vehicle.
Yeah.
We are continuously exposed to the blue light from phones and technology, which, I mean, obviously we all love technology, but that has to be playing a factor into it, because like, I don't know about you, but how much reading does people get done anymore? Like, I don't read very much, physically actually read.
Yeah. So like you're talking in terms of like leisure.
Like turning the page of a paperback or a hardcover book instead of, I mean, like I read on my phone a lot and I listen to a lot of audiobooks. So like I get a lot of knowledge, but I'm not doing the physical act of reading. And I feel like that plays a big part in like overall like mental health and like your physical health, because you're not straining to see a TV screen all the time.
Yeah,
I don't know.
For me
I'm like, I use the TV, I watch the TV, I use my phone, but I kind of despise them all.
So I guess the question would be then, if you have someone who is their vice in terms of time consumption is the television, how do you start to work your way around that? The first thing that I suggest that I kind of already mentioned is, first of all, it's like every problem. You have to be truthful and analytical with yourself. Like, why is this problem an issue? So
yeah, you got to know it's an issue before you can fix it.
If I am someone who constantly watches TV and I identify the issue to be because I'm tired, like I just want to lay on the couch and watch TV because I'm exhausted, then you would say, okay, well, that exhaustion needs fixed. Are you getting tired appropriately? Is it like a really difficult, again, labor intensive job that you're working where you're justifiably and understandably tired when you get home? If that's the case, go to sleep because you need it. Is it, I'm tired, but I really shouldn't be? It's because my diet sucks and my sleep patterns suck? Because fix those. And then you'll fix the TV consuming all of your time. Is it, you could even say, is it like kind of like a dopamine serotonin response, like a neurochemical response, like people who play video games. And to be completely honest, I don't really know much in terms of like the dopamine dump that they say that these video games give you and stuff like that. Like my neurotransmitter knowledge is not what it should be. So, but I just wonder if like the television is because people like watching things on television and watching sports, and I like watching sports as well, but maybe that's what your obsession is. Maybe it's not just the TV in a vegetative state, but maybe it's like you're actually engaged in the TV because you like a sports team or whatever. Which, if that's the case, turn the TV on and listen to the sport instead of actually physically watching the sport. I know that takes away from the user experience, but it's still going to be allowing you to get a little bit more done. So again, I think that with anything, you have to analyze it and say, okay, this is my problem. How do I work away from the problem? So I'm just trying to brainstorm from some people or for some people on their behalf that think that their TV time may be a little bit too much.
So I can speak from experience. Before I had started into this journey at all, I was a complete and total TV junkie. Like the only thing I did that wasn't TV was work. So, I'd watch TV before work. I'd watch TV when I got home from work. I ate dinner in front of TV.
Dude, that's the typical American life. You're one of hundreds of millions of people that do that.
So, but what I did to change that is I created an interest. And because at first I wasn't interested in gardening. I wasn't interested in having chickens and having a nice manicured lawn. I wasn't interested in that stuff, but I started to like almost, how like you see things like if you repetitively think something, you'll start to gain interest in it because it's on your mind.
Yeah.
I started to do that because I was eating right. I was starting to exercise. Everything else was changing, but I was still planting myself in front of that television too much. And I was not getting enough sleep. So I was like, if I'm going to be up anyways, let's do something that is productive. So I just created habits that were good habits. So I started gardening. Instead of paying somebody to cut my grass, which as a young American man, I feel ashamed that I ever paid somebody to cut my grass. But, I used to pay somebody to cut my grass. Instead of paying somebody to cut my grass, I started mowing my own yard and doing my own landscaping and helping my wife with our flowers and taking a little bit more. And that's going to do more than just minimize your television time. It's also going to give you a sense of pride, which will also make you want to do more of that because you have that pride that this is where I live. This is what I do.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just something that I did. And I know that people, there's a whole side of the fence that say being prideful is, I can't remember what they call it, but it's not good. Right. And I don't subscribe to that because I think there's a difference in being, taking pride in your things and your stuff, like what your accomplishments are and being, I don't know what the word is. Like bragging. I can't remember. There's an actual word. I've heard it before because I use the word pride a lot and people don't like it, but there's nothing wrong with substituting your TV time with another habit. Just make it a good habit.
Yeah.
Insert the gym.
Yep.
I mean, how much time does the average American sit in front of the television and then in their normal day-to-day life talk about they want to lose weight or they want to get in shape or they want to be able to look like they did in high school?
Well, and honestly, dude, you could take that one step further and say you don't even need to replace the bad habit with something good. Just add something good because it's probably going to end up replacing the bad habits anyway.
Yeah, I guess that, that's a great chapter out of a book that I've read a few times is you don't have to get rid of the bad stuff. Just overwhelm it with good stuff.
Yeah. It's kind of like addition by subtraction or subtraction by addition.
There's a real wise man I heard that, that told me that one time.
Would that wise man happen to be me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the context in which we talked about it was clients and food choices.
Yeah, it was with me because I didn't you wanted me to do, you never told me that I couldn't eat. I eat whatever I want. I have to eat these things.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it.
You can drink whatever you want on top of this, but make sure you get X amount of water throughout the day.
Right.
The other stuff you want to drink, but if you're drinking enough water, you won't really want anything else or need anything else.
Right. Sure. Yeah. So yeah, the addition by subtraction or the subtraction by addition is amazing. And it's organic. You don't even realize it's happening because I think that's the hardest thing for people to do is they like to watch television. Like they thoroughly enjoy the crap that's on the TV because most of it is, right? But if you start to add other things that you will eventually thoroughly enjoy, you will have less and less time to watch the television.
Yep. I think that's all like usable feedback for people. I mean, I know it is for myself. I'm definitely going forward, at least for this week, we're going to try to be a lot more self-aware of what my habits are day to day and how I'm getting better at not necessarily creating good habits, but staying away from productivity killers, kind of how we worded it before.
Yeah. And like, another good habit, right? We talked about water for a minute. I can't tell you how often I hear people, especially, in the work setting and even at home, my wife hates water, but now she drinks a gallon of water a day, every day. Mm-hmm. Like it took me years to get her to do it, but now she does. And I think there's a lot to do with the vessel you drink your water out of. You know what I mean? Like, I know that that's completely a different area than the television, right? But it kind of lines up with pick something that you enjoy and do it more. So like, I noticed that my water intake is back to what my normal water intake is as of recently. And it's because I got one of my old cups that I really enjoy drinking out of. And I fill it up with ice in the morning and I just dump water in it all day long. And I end up drinking almost a whole case of water every day.
Interesting.
And I don't know, maybe that's just me.
Yeah, but interesting that the cup made a difference for you and that you're like aware of that.
Right.
Yeah, that's very cool. Every little bit helps, I suppose.
Right.
All right. So with that, we have come to the end of another episode of the Chasing Dreams podcast with Charlie and Justin. This has been episode 131. As always, we appreciate your listenership and we look forward to hearing back from you guys next week.
Unbreakable, unstoppable, I'm pushed to the edge and